All right, good evening, everyone. It's 7:03, and we're going to open the meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending. We're going to start by taking care of some administrative business. The first item is to approve the minutes from our August 24th board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion from Warren, second from Lynn. Is there any discussion of the minutes from August 24th? All right, all in favor of approving? Okay, 4-0-0. Okay, next is we need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Okay, there's a motion from Lynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a second from Warren. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to, I have a letter that I'd like to have reviewed by the board.
Can you give a little more information so I can slot it in the agenda? I know what you're asking for, but just for the record.
For the record, yes. It's a letter to our political representatives about the Orchard Green pathway. And so we're trying to ask them to have a budget and facilitate coordinating between the three parties that need to develop the path, the crosswalk, and the extension of the pathway from the tot lot at Orchard Green.
All right, so how about an amendment to make the Orchard Green pathway and crosswalk a 10-minute old business item? Would that work?
Works for me.
All right. Any other discussion on the agenda for tonight? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda as amended? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-0-0. Jennifer joined. All right. Hi, Jennifer. Okay, it is time for resident remarks. So if you are a resident and would like to make remarks, you have 3 minutes. If you would like to make remarks and you're on the mobile or PC version of Zoom, just use the hand raise feature and I'll call you in the order the hand goes up. And if you are our dial-in person, I think it's *9 to raise your hand. So anyone for resident remarks, please go ahead and raise your hand now. Going once, going twice. All right, we will move on from resident remarks. Okay, so now I am pleased to welcome from the Howard County Office of Transportation, Chris Etoff and, whoops, my screen just, oh, you're sharing. Chris Etoff and Molly Nur. They're here to talk to us about the Oakland Mills Road Complete Streets project that's proposed for Oakland Mills Road, roughly from the circle at Blandair Park down to, is it Dobbin?
It is.
Okay, so roughly from Blandair Park down to Dobbin Road. So we have about 30 minutes scheduled. And Chris and Molly, were you building any time into that for question and answer at the end, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to go through these fairly quickly and ask you to call questions till I've gotten through it, but I should be able to get through, I hope, in 15 minutes.
Okay.
The rest of the time for questions and discussion.
All right, well, thank you. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having us this evening. Talk about the project that we're excited about, and we've been hearing a lot of positive response from the community about as well. So this is the Oakland Mills Complete Streets project. Sometimes we call it the Road Diet project that Jonathan just introduced. Chris Etoff with the Office of Transportation and Molly Nur is here with me also from our office to help me talk about the project and to listen to you, any questions or input you might have. So we're going to give a little bit of background by way of also mentioning the Walk Howard, Bike Howard, and Complete Streets policy. Give a little bit of detail about the project itself, and then discuss the next steps for the projects, including the schedule for implementation. So just by way of background, the county does have a pedestrian master plan. This is one of the areas that we pull potential projects from, kind of where projects are born. So we call that Walk Howard, officially adopted by the county council in 2020. And we also have the bike version called Bike Howard, the Howard County Bicycle Master Plan, which was adopted in 2016. So again, this is kind of the source of these projects. We don't just pluck them out of the air. We try to do them with a kind of comprehensive plan in place so that projects connect and we can build out a network of facilities for people walking and biking. The bottom line is we're trying to make it easy for people to get around in Howard County, no matter what their mode of travel is. Obviously, the bike plan is focused on biking and the walk plan is focused on walking. So we're trying to build connected facilities of sidewalks, crosswalks, pathways, and bike lanes, and just low volume, low speed streets that people can use safely. We also have the Howard County Complete Streets Policy, which is a very holistic viewpoint of what I was just talking about. It basically says that by a matter of Howard County policy, and again, this is adopted by the Howard County Council and approved by the county executive, that our streets shall be safe and convenient for residents of all ages and abilities, whether you're traveling by foot, bicycle, public transportation, or automobile. So we have the policy in place. We're also working on an update to the Howard County Design Manual, which is the design guidance book that dictates how our streets are designed in Howard County. So obviously there's a lot of potential improvements there for making our streets more friendly and accessible to people biking and walking and other vulnerable street users, older people, people in wheelchairs. So if we can make our streets safe and accessible for all those folks, then everybody is taken care of and everybody can get around safely and conveniently. So that design manual update is going through draft now with a complete streets implementation team, and it will be coming out to the public actually in October for public review. So keep your eye on that process as well if you're interested in this particular topic. So onto our project, we're looking at Oakland Mills Road, this green segment here from Old Montgomery Road, which is up at Blandare Park, all the way down to Dobbin Road. It's about 1.5 miles. I'll just leave it on that map slide for a second, just to again show that there is a lot of connectivity built into these projects. We already have good biking and walking facilities up at the Blandare Park and obviously the downtown Columbia Trail that goes through Oakland Mills and over to downtown Columbia, and then various pathways around Blandare Park and along Old Montgomery Road. And then we also have pathways down at the Lake Elkhorn end of the project that this would help connect to. And we have a future project on Dobbin Road, which is a significant project to add a shared use pathway, as well as sidewalks and crosswalk improvements along Dobbin Road, where there currently are no bike or pedestrian facilities whatsoever. So this is a great project to connect to that project and get people to the stores and the businesses or the workplaces that are all along Dobbin Road there in that busy commercial corridor. And then there's another connection to that pathway that runs along the stream valley there and that green space kind of between Dobbin and Sewell's Orchard, I guess. So there's pathways down in there that provide good connection up and across 175 into Long Reach. So this is really in many ways, Oakland Mills Road is a missing link in a lot of these connections, and really helpful to have it improved for biking and walking to make all those connections. So we started out by having a project here to evaluate safety, parking needs, vehicle speeds, and pedestrian and bicycle accessibility along this stretch of Oakland Mills Road. Wanted to state that because it's important to realize this is not just a bike project or not just a pedestrian project. It actually has a lot to offer for people driving on the roadway as well. There is a lot that Oakland Mills Road is essentially overbuilt as a 4-lane road that really doesn't carry a huge volume of traffic. There is room on the road to repurpose some of that space for other uses, other modes, and even to make the road safer for people driving, because currently, as I'm sure you're all aware, speeds are quite high on Oakland Mills Road. And the current design does lend itself to potentially aggressive driving with people weaving and overtaking, and people that want to drive fast do have the ability to drive fast on that road, and that creates problems for people driving, for people to try to pull out of their neighborhoods. Making left turns onto the road is difficult because of the weaving and the speeding. So we have done a substantial amount of community outreach already for this project. We're kind of closing in on the final stages here, but I wanted to remind everybody that we started out in 2019 with 2 public meetings, one in January, one in October, in your community in the Oakland Mills area. And I believe some of you did attend and participate in these meetings and these outreach efforts. So the first meeting in January, we really came with a very blank slate. We knew we wanted to look at Oakland Mills Road for potential reconfiguration when the road is resurfaced and when we have the opportunity to remark the road. But we came with a blank slate and we listened to the community on what their preferences and priorities were. We heard a lot about reducing speed on the road. We heard a lot about improving bicycle and pedestrian accommodations on the road and linking up to those other connections that I mentioned. So on October 30th the same year, we came back with a couple of design concepts for a road diet in 2 different formats, basically an option A and an option B, presented those to the community and took feedback on the preferences between option A and option B. That there was a fairly strong preference for option B, which is the option essentially that we're presenting now is the selected option and what we're moving forward with. So I will keep moving here and get to the details of road option. So this was the option preferred. We're going from the existing Oakland Mills Road cross section, which is shown on the top, to the selected configuration, which is shown at the bottom. So existing is a 4-lane section with 4 travel lanes, general purpose lanes. So if you're on a bicycle, you are most likely riding in one of those lanes somewhere with the vehicles that are driving quite fast at times. And then we have sidewalks on both sides. The sidewalks are almost continuous on both sides. There are a couple of gaps in the sidewalk on the east side that have been identified that we will not be able to fill those gaps with this particular project, but they are kind of in line to be filled at some point through a different project. The reason we're not doing them at this time is this is essentially a resurfacing project. So we're focused on what's between the curbs there in the roadway. The road is going to get resurfaced. So that's the other good news about this project is it fills in, well, it doesn't really, it takes care of the potholes by putting a whole fresh surface of asphalt on the roadway. So there'll be a nice smooth surface that we can put the new lines for the new configuration down onto. But the sidewalks are something that is not typically included in a resurfacing project. We have different capital budgets and different programs to fill in sidewalks, but we are aware of those gaps on the east side. So moving towards this, what we'd call a 3-lane section down below, where it's 1 lane in each direction, 1 general purpose travel lane in each direction, plus the center turn lanes there, which are left turn lanes in either direction, depending on if there's a left turn coming up on each side. So this is a configuration that works well as long as the traffic volumes are not particularly high. They usually say the threshold for this kind of 3-lane section to work well is around 20,000 vehicles a day, and Oakland Mills Road runs at about 10,000 vehicles per day. So it's well below the threshold for this kind of a road diet from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. And so it's not expected to provide capacity issues or backups. In fact, having that left turn lane available simplifies a lot of the driving and allows left turners obviously to be out of the travel lane when they're making the left turns. And it reduces that likelihood of really aggressive drivers being able to speed on the roadway because they're going to be behind people that are driving a more reasonable speed. And it's not easy to overtake them because they don't have the 4-lane section where they can switch lanes and weave their way through. So what that does is basically frees up about a travel lane's worth of space. So we're utilizing that on the right side of the road here, which would be the east side or the north side, depending on your angle of Oakland Mills Road, the Sewell's Orchard side. And we're providing this two-directional bicycle facilities. Sometimes it's called a protected bike lane, sometimes it's called a cycle track. But it's over there on the east side, and it has a buffered area that's painted between the bicycle facility and the travel lanes, and it also has these delineator posts, sometimes called flex posts, that will be in between the travel lane and the bike lane. So again, that provides a little bit more separation, definitely visual cues for the drivers and the cyclists to kind of keep in their areas. And it can be a gentle reminder if a cyclist or a driver is straying over there. It's not an actual barrier. It's not a Jersey wall that will actually stop a car, but it is certainly a visual and tactile reminder if somebody clips one of those posts to get back in the lane. And again, this was the preferred option after the public outreach that was, we called it option B. So that's what we are moving forward with. So that's the cross section. Wanted just to show you some photos as well of similar configurations. None of these is exactly the same because kind of every roadway is slightly different, but these are not in Howard County. These are from, one is from Montgomery County and the others are from other parts of the country. But at least you can see the type of roadway and the type of treatments that we're talking about. In the top left here, you can see this very clearly, the center turn lane. And we will have some pedestrian refuge islands that are like the ones that are shown there to help pedestrians cross the road and to help slow down the traffic. So it's a little bit similar there, although those bike lanes are not protected in the top left version. In the bottom left version, that is a very similar bicycle facility to what we are designing and building, where we have the crosshatched buffered area and the delineator posts and a two-way bike facility up against the curb. So it'll be very similar to that, although this one looks like it has some parking next to the flex posts, which we will not have on Oakland Mills Road. And in the top right, again, it's a very similar bicycle facility, similar kind of size and scale of roadway there. It's been scaled down using the flex posts to provide space for biking. Also wanted to show you kind of how this works at the intersections, because oftentimes the intersections are the more complicated portions of these projects. So starting down at the Dobbin Road portion, which is essentially an endpoint for the bicycle facility and an endpoint for our project. Although, like I mentioned, this will connect to the future shared use pathway that'll run up the east side of Dobbin Road. So that little short crosswalk there across the right turn lane will connect to a pathway going north up Dobbin Road and a sidewalk going, I guess we'll call that east along Oakland Mills Road to Oak Hall and the bus stop that's over there. So those are future connections as well that will be made. So you can see the bicycle facility here is off to the left. It ends here if you're heading or starts here, depending which direction you're going in. And we're providing these pedestrian crosswalks at the signalized intersection. These are not there currently. There's currently no pedestrian facility to this intersection. So a big gain for pedestrians here to be able to safely cross Oakland Mills Road. The refuge island, it is currently there as it's not a refuge island, it's just a very small triangular island now. It's being enlarged so that it can have the pedestrian refuge for the crosswalks and keep the pedestrians safe, and the cyclists can also use those crosswalks to gain access to the bicycle facility or transition out of the bicycle facility, depending on where they're going. Each road user should have their path of travel available to them here, depending on where they're going. So then our bicycle facility starts there and continues along up Oakland Mills Road, heading north. Also note, you can see the pathway there on the bottom down here on the screen. This is a pathway that goes down to Lake Elkhorn, and there is an existing sidewalk there. So pedestrians and cyclists can use this short connection here after they cross the road to and from this pathway. I'm just not showing you every inch of the project just because it would take too long, but I'm focusing on the intersections here because that's kind of where things tend to change a little bit and the interesting elements are. So this is just up the corridor a little bit at Dasher Court. Again, there's a connection to Lake Elkhorn here, the pathway next to Dasher Court. And there's also a connection under the underpass to the other pathway that runs up the river valley. So because of those connections, we wanted to make sure there was a way for for people that are on the top side of the road here, probably the cyclists for the most part in this bicycle facility, to be able to cross the street somewhere near Dasher Court and be able to access Lake Elkhorn pathway and the other tunnel. So we added this pedestrian crosswalk, which is actually at the community garden, which is to the north. So that's another benefit. The community garden is now more accessible by pedestrians that can cross the street here. So that is a new pedestrian crossing with a refuge island. Another benefit of this center turn lane that we're adding that's not currently there is we can have these pedestrian refuge islands. So now a pedestrian that's crossing the street on Oakland Mills Road only has to cross one lane of traffic at a time. Much easier to look one direction, wait for a gap in that one line, cross one lane of traffic into the refuge island, wait there, reset, look again the other way for traffic coming from the other direction, and cross one lane of traffic. All in a marked crosswalk with helpful signage to remind drivers that this is a marked crosswalk. Compare that now to try to cross Oakland Mills Road and you're looking at 4 lanes of traffic that you have to deal with all at the same time. Much more difficult proposition. Moving up to the next intersection, which is Homespun. Those of you familiar with this intersection will note that this intersection actually currently has one crossing across Oakland Mills Road on the east leg. We have had the traffic office, DPW traffic has had some complaints and concerns about right turning traffic off Homespun here coming into conflict with people using the pedestrian crosswalk that's there. So they've requested that crosswalk get shifted to the other side, and this project is a good opportunity to do that. So it will not be as much conflict with the right turners off of Homespun. And I know there's a lot less right turning going on from the north leg, which is Melindy maybe. So that should reduce conflicts there by shifting that leg. Now, also wanted to point out at the bicycle crossing of this intersection, and this is a signalized intersection. The pedestrian crossings are shown in the darker black, and they're all new. The bicycle crossing is shown in more of a gray color here, but it will be green painted. We often use green for bicycle facilities now, and kind of modern street marking. So that is a crosswalk for the cyclists that's immediately adjacent to the crosswalk for pedestrians, but it's lined up with the bicycle facility while the pedestrian crosswalk is lined up with the crosswalk, with the sidewalks. So the cyclists will use the same signal as the pedestrians use, which is the traditional, red don't walk, green walking person signal that will be added to this intersection because they not currently there now for the crossing the side streets. So the cyclist uses the pedestrian signal. The pedestrian signal to cross the side streets will come on every cycle. So every time that the through traffic on Oakland Mills Road has the green light, the pedestrian signal will come on for pedestrians and cyclists as well. So there will be a push button there, but the push button is essentially not needed because the light will come on for the pedestrians every cycle. And we do that to ensure it will be very awkward for the cyclist to have to get off their bike and go over to the sidewalk to press the button to request a pedestrian signal. So the pedestrian signal can be on recall is what it's called. It means it just comes on every cycle in line with the through traffic on Oakland Mills Road. So moving down to the next intersection, some of these are going to be somewhat similar, but this is the other Melindy intersection. So this is not signalized, but we do have a new crossing of the refuge island shown here. So another opportunity for pedestrians to cross the street with this crossing here near Melindy. And then again, the side-by-side crosswalks for cyclists and pedestrians, although this one is not signalized. So they'll just be going through with the through traffic. And turning traffic needs to yield to people in the crosswalks, just like they always do they're always required to do for pedestrian crosswalk. This one is at Fairmead, so this is very similar, non-signalized, very similar to the previous one. We do not have a crossing at across Oakland Mills Road at this location. We have had a request for that already through the public comment. So some of you may be considering that or thinking about requesting that. The challenge that we need to look at is sightline, because I think there's a little bit of a curve and a rise in the road near here, so we need to evaluate if this location is okay to have a crossing and if there's enough sight line for the drivers to see the pedestrians and vice versa. Moving up to Dawn Day Drive and Sewell's Orchard Drive, again, non-signalized, and the crossings, and I'll point out somewhat significant signage as well at all of these to warn drivers that there's people crossing the road. This one, I believe, is a school, used for a school crossing, so it gets the slightly different pedestrian crossing signs there. That's more like looks like a parent and child rather than just one single pedestrian crosser. And then moving up to Farewell, there is also a new pedestrian crosswalk coming for Farewell with a refuge island. And the final signalized intersection, which is Kilimanjaro Road, it does have this kind of somewhat awkward skewed crosswalk that's there currently. So the curb ramps will be upgraded to ADA standards, but that crosswalk is essentially, we're showing it in the same location as there currently. Straightening it out would be ideal, but the reason it's skewed is because Kilimanjaro Road is so much wider than the small road to the north. So that creates that skew. And if we straighten it out, we do run into problems with right-of-way on the north side there, where we need a little bit of space to do the curb ramps and the pedestrian signal heads. And we would have trouble keeping those on the county right-of-way, where just if we can keep them at the corner of the intersection, we have more county right-of-way for those kind of facilities. So as of now, in our design, we're still showing that same skew. We like our crosswalks to be straight to shorten the distance for pedestrians crossing, but it's not always possible. And there will be sufficient time with the signalized intersection here for the pedestrians to cross, even with that angle. So that'll be calculated out and additional time provided. And then the end point of the project, which is always important to look at because these facilities do have to end somewhere and transition into something else. So you can see here the bicycle facility ends just in advance of the traffic circle. We're providing a ramp up to the sidewalk. That's what that diagonal feature is there coming off the bike lanes. So basically cyclists will have two choices here. A cyclist that does not want to ride in the roadway, so maybe a less experienced or less brave, less bold cyclists may want to use that ramp, and they can go up to the sidewalk and then use the pedestrian crossings depending on which direction they're going, but they're going to go probably to the Blandair, to the downtown Columbia Trail, towards downtown Columbia, or maybe to the pathway on the north side of Old Montgomery Road. But either way, they have pedestrian facilities across the traffic circle and pathways around the circle to get there. A braver cyclist, maybe more experienced, may just want to re-enter the roadway, which is fine. They're allowed to do that. They'll be able to do that and enter the traffic circle. Cyclists are allowed to use the traffic circle, but we don't provide separated facilities in a traffic circle because it just doesn't work in traffic circles. So that's the end point of the project at the north end. In terms of schedule, we are looking to get started this fall. So I don't think we can get the whole project done this fall because we will run into the winter weather crunch. But we have a lot of curb ramp upgrades to make. Basically, every one of those intersections has 4 corners. Each one has a curb ramp on it. And they are, I think it's safe to say they're all non-compliant currently with ADA standards, which have changed in recent years. So whenever we're doing a resurfacing project, the county goes through and upgrades all the curb ramps to ADA standards for the slope and the direction, and they put down those tactile pads, the proper ADA standard tactile pads. So that kind of concrete curb work actually takes a little while, and there's this many, I think there's 40 some curb ramps in this project, and they typically do, I'm told, about 4 a day. So that's a couple of weeks of work there, a couple of weeks worth of work on the curb ramps, and then the concrete needs to cure before any resurfacing can be done. So that's a couple of weeks of curing. So if we start in October with the curb ramps, we're probably getting towards the end of October by the time we're done, and probably too late to resurface the road in this season. We would wait until the spring to mill the road and resurface the road with the good weather in March or April. The other thing we can get done in the fall is the pedestrian signal work. All of those signalized intersections are going to need new pedestrian signals, and some of them need new main signals as well, because the equipment needs to be upgraded to accommodate the pedestrian equipment. So we can do that in the fall also. And then we'll be ready to go in the spring for the road milling, resurfacing, and the marking, which is really, it's the marking that really changes the configuration of the road. So that comes at the end. So here's some information for you moving forward. We're taking comments tonight and through September 28th. There's a link there for a short survey, which is just our preferred methodology for collecting comments, because it keeps everything organized. So there's just a few questions where you can input your ideas, responses, comments. You can also send us an email. The transportation email is up on there. My phone number and our mailing address are all on there. And then all this information plus the full plan, every sheet of the rollout sheet of the design is at that website right there also. So the project website has all the information. And then if you want to sign up for information on any project moving forward, you can use that SurveyMonkey form there for the Office of Transportation, and you can hear about other projects that we're working on, or any other updates on meetings that we might have. So that is what I had. I may have gone slightly over the 15 minutes that I said, but I think we probably still have some time for questions and comments.
Thank you, Chris. Actually, I have a comment and a couple of questions, and then I'll see if anyone on the board raises their hand and wants to ask anything. First of all, I mean, I think this is a great design. I think this is a great improvement over the current Oakland Mills Road for sure. My question, and actually a resident contacted me with a question because they were unable to join tonight. So my question is, you'd mentioned the green crosswalks that denote the bike lane. I actually used to work down on First Street Northeast in DC, and they did something similar to this. In fact, it's the east side, the next to the northbound lanes is exactly where they put the bike lane. So just like Oakland Mills Road. They actually painted the whole lane green so that no one turning onto First Street can get confused and turn into the wrong travel lane. Is there any consideration of making the whole pavement a different color so that no one makes a mistake, at night when they're turning on to the road?
Yeah, I mean, that's been done in a couple of places, and I know the location you're talking about, but it's becoming more common to use green paint to identify particular conflict zones, particular segments, as opposed to long stretches. I mean, this would be a really long stretch to paint in that way. It's 1.5 miles. Sometimes they look good when you first do them, and then when things start to fade and not look so good, it's a lot of work to keep it refreshed and keep it looking good for such a long stretch, where the small conflict zones, you can actually keep the paint vibrant. And it's not such a big burden on the county to be doing that for a shorter stretch. So we're not looking to paint the whole facility. And I would say that that's not happening very often these days around the country. It's much more often that we're seeing, particular conflict zones being painted in green in that way. We will also take careful placement with these flex posts, the delineators that I'm talking about, to try to prevent drivers from, inadvertently finding their way into the bicycle facility. So I think that's really the key, is to have good flex post placement so that it's difficult for drivers to get in there.
All right, thanks. And then the question I got from a resident, she just wanted to know what the rule is in Howard County. So for the people who live on the side streets to the east of Oakland Mills Road, obviously what they're used to now is basically their street ends right at a travel lane for Oakland Mills Road. What this would change is they would have, I think it's 9 feet of bike lane plus 3 feet of barrier before you get to the 11-foot northbound travel lane. So what if you're a car pulling out from one of those streets, what's the rule in terms of where you can pull up to see oncoming vehicular traffic versus bike traffic if you're trying to right on red onto Oakland Mills Road if it's a controlled signal, or just make your regular right or left turn if it's an uncontrolled intersection?
Yeah, so I guess start out with a signalized example here that I've got up. So imagine you're coming up, driving from the north there, right? And you want to turn right at the signalized intersection onto Oakland Mills Road. I mean, it's a little bit more straightforward. You've got a signal and a stop bar there. Obviously, if the signal's on red, you should be stopping at the stop bar before you advance at all. So you need to stop and look for pedestrian traffic and bicycle traffic and vehicular traffic before you advance. But then, you know, most people will then kind of cautiously move forward if it looks like they have the ability to make a right turn on red to, you know, a more advanced position where they're closer to the travel lanes before they finalize their maneuver. So that's fine to do that. And then similarly on the unsignalized, you know, they have a stop sign. Some of these locations have a stop bar, although that one does not. That one is signalized. I don't know, there's a better example where there's a stop bar or not, but they will all have a stop sign you can see marked there. So their first stop should definitely be at the stop sign, and that's where they're starting to scan and view. And then if they need to move forward to get into a more advanced position before they make their final entry into the roadway, that's okay. So they can essentially block the crosswalk after they've checked to make sure nobody's coming into the crosswalk.
All right, thank you, Chris. Okay, so actually we're hosting the public meeting on behalf of the county, so we can take questions from any guest as well as the board. So I see Mike with a hand up, and then Rebecca, and then Sandy, and then Warren, if I caught everyone in the right order. So Mike, Rebecca, Sandy, Warren. And then Phil after all of them.
Okay, great. I'll go ahead and go. I just had a couple of comments. Chris, first of all, thanks so much for presenting this. It really helped clarify me. I printed this off and looked at it, and I was like, wow, this is a lot. I did have one comment, the community gardens crosswalk. When I just saw it when you were presenting it, somebody coming from the north and east to make a left turn into the community gardens.
Yeah.
It seems like the crosswalk is right there. Is that,
Yeah.
did I see that, or is that?
Yeah. Now we're still considering that,
Yeah,
like
that
which,
there.
yeah, we could possibly switch that. We're
Somebody
looking
was
at switching
coming
that.
from the left and going to make a left turn into the gardens. Wouldn't that block the road lane?
Yes, the way it's shown now, you would
Okay.
not be able to use the
Okay,
center
that
lane.
was just
to make
something I
a left.
noticed. I mean, it doesn't impact me personally because I don't have a plot in, but it, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, we're looking to see
And
if we
then
can
the other
switch that.
thing was, like I said, this is wonderful news for me because I've ridden my bike down. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we are looking to see if we can switch that, if
Okay,
that
and
crosswalk can be
the
switched.
other thing I had was, okay, very good. And the other comment I had was a down by Dobbin. I know there's going to be another path, and I think you mentioned it, that there's going to be a path going up Dobbin and also towards like the post office and that
Yeah.
Group of shops down there where Race Pace is at. Is that true?
Yes, and yes, that'll be a separate project, but and also a crossing at Oak Hall as well, a crossing across Oakland Mills at Oak Hall once that sidewalk goes in. So that'll get people to that Oak Hall Lane area.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I've also heard of a project that goes into Columbia Gateway. Would this tie into that too, I assume?
So yes, on the Gateway side, we have, it's not, it's still in the design process. It's not funded yet, but we have a project to do a shared use pathway into Gateway, essentially from the corner of Snowden and Oakland Mills Road. And then crossing improvements at Snowden and Oakland Mills Road that would come from another different project, which is a Snowden River Parkway road widening project. So potentially, eventually, this could be all connected up into Gateway.
Okay, excellent. Thanks so much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. It's a great project.
Thank you.
Okay, Rebecca?
Okay.
Chris, you can get out your notepad. I have a ton of comments, but thank you so much for this presentation tonight. It was really clear and well laid out, and I'm super excited about it too. It's a path that we often use. Piggybacking on Mike, what's the timeline for the rest of that Oakland Mills road connection to the gateway?
So we don't have a timeline for that yet. We've done preliminary design for that project, but we have not done final design, and we don't have funding for it yet. And it's quite an expensive project. So, I mean, I would say we're looking at least 2 years out, and maybe more, depending on if we can find funding or not.
Gotcha. But the Dobbin Road project is probably before that.
Dobbin Road is more likely before. We're moving along in the design. We actually have a public meeting for that project on October 28th. So we're further along in the design, although we do need to find construction funding for Dobbin Road project. We're hopeful that there could be some grant opportunities or also some federal infrastructure funding that's starting to flow through. And the Dobbin Road project would be a great candidate for that. So we are seeking funding. So I'm hopeful that'll be more like around the 2-year timeframe before we finish the design, get the funding and get it built.
Gotcha. In that same vein, I mean, I'm all about connecting, right? Because having these little spots of great biking is not that useful when you can't cross from wherever you're going. So at the other end, at Blandair, where you have so 2 spots. So where you have it stop at Old Montgomery there. Yeah, any chance, in Stevens Forest, they have the bike lanes on the road. And then as it joins the circle, they have the signs that say bikers are joining traffic or whatever the signs say. Any chance of having one of those signs there? I know you said you can go up on the sidewalk to cross, but my bike, I can't do that. So
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, some bikes are bigger and less maneuverable than others. So yes, we've heard that request previously as well, just to help with that transition here from the bike facility onto the roadway. So I think that the sign that we typically use says bikes may use full lane. And I think we may be able to incorporate one of those around here on this transition.
And then Blandair itself has great trails through it and paths, right? But then you get to the other end to where it crosses Sohap, and it connects to the Columbia Trail or Columbia Association Trail on the other side. Any chance of getting a crosswalk across Sohap or something there to make coming out of Blandair?
We can look. We can look. I mean, obviously, different project than this, just because it's physically not directly connected. But I can look at that location.
Just to connect this to the whole lake to lake trail all the way through. Okay, let me see what else. Oh, also that navigating, with a larger bike. One of my biggest pet peeves right now is at Phelps Luck and 175, the corner by Royal Farms. The sidewalk there, I cannot maneuver around that corner. And so the different like pedestrian crossways and corners and stuff, are there any that are going to be that dramatic angle? Do you know what I'm talking about on the corner at Phelps Luck? It's like the pedestrians cross the crosswalk, you walk in and then you turn 90 degrees and then you turn 90 degrees and then you're on and then you turn it again. So it's like a W shape pathway. Does that?
So I mean, I'll take a look. I haven't looked at it previously, but I'll take a look. I mean, some of the tighter sections would be what we're looking at here if you were using these crosswalks at the circle and the sidewalk, which I don't know if you would or not. It sounds like you might prefer to be in the roadway for the circle. But these connections here could be a little tight.
190 degree is fine. It's just that long reach spot where it could just be a straight pass through is, I don't know why it is designed like that with the weird in and out. It seems like oh yeah, so that would be that's the spot that I was thinking of, that island there.
Yeah, I mean, this
It's
right
pretty
turn
straight.
would probably be the tightest, but I think it looks okay, and I'll take some good measurements. This will be wider than a typical sidewalk. This looks like it's, this is a sidewalk down here. So these in the refuge island look about 8 feet wide. So I think you'll find there's maneuvering space within this island.
Yeah, that looks much better than the other one. And Yeah, that's all on this project. When we're done talking about this, I have a question about something else while we have you.
Sure.
All right, Warren?
Oh, I'm next. Chris, this is wonderful. You've been working on this for many years, and I really appreciate all the hard work you did on it. I had some people comment, and they from Owen Brown, and some of their kids they have to walk, they're walkers, and they had such a hard time crossing the streets. And I think this will be a huge improvement for them, and life-changing for many of these people. The other, I guess you answered Mike's question about when it's going to get to Snowden. So I think that's already been answered. And I guess the other thing, I mean, I'm very excited because this will take you, if you have protected bike lanes or pathways all the way to the hospital on the other side of Columbia. So this will be a huge improvement for Columbia. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's when I first started working for the county about 7 years ago, this was actually, one of the first areas we really started to look at. So these things can sometimes take a while, and it requires the right kind of timing. And now that the road surface is kind of degraded enough to be ready for resurfacing, that's when the opportunity is there. So we did have to do a lot of work to get to this point, but it's definitely the right timing for it.
Thanks, Warren. Okay, Sandy?
Mine's an easy question. The title page of the project says Oakland Mills project. Can you insert the word road?
Sure. That's an easy one.
Yeah, because that's confusing for people. So if you just put Oakland Mills Road, complete streets. There you go. Thank you. That was the easiest.
Done.
Okay, thank you.
Was that the easiest public comment yet?
I like those.
I'm not
All
a
right,
biker, so I can just worry about.
and it
titles.
looks like finally we have Phil.
Hello.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah, so I submitted a much longer public comment. So I just want to ask one quick question here. This is a comment about specifically the alignment of the bike path. If you go and look at the page or the page that shows the intersection of Loring Drive and Farmland Lane, I can address that one the most yeah, this one. The bike path isn't straight. It shifts off to the east and then comes back. If you're traveling north, and it comes back. Was that done for sight reasons or for like assisting turning geometries or for cars?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
there's
a
some.
pretty significant deviation, especially if you're moving at relatively high speed on a bike or you're pedaling. And it isn't just this intersection; it's done at every single one of them. I was just curious why that particular design was done.
Yeah, there is some intentionality behind that. So we do want the crosswalks to be immediately adjacent to each other, the bicycle crosswalk and the pedestrian crosswalk. It helps with driver awareness of the crosswalk, and also they're using the same pedestrian signal that I mentioned, at the signalized locations at least. So we want to make sure the cyclists can easily see, and it makes sense, what signal they're looking at. So that is one of the reasons, although it doesn't really apply to the non-signalized locations. We do like the idea of having the cyclists just a little bit more of an awareness and maybe slowing down a little bit as they go through these intersections. Just that extra caution of safety. I mean, if they should not be coming into conflict with the driver if drivers are paying attention and yielding to people in the crosswalk. But we all know that doesn't always happen 100%. So just having a little bit more, a couple miles an hour less on behalf of the cyclist can be a helpful safety thing as well. So there is some intentionality. We have discussed it both ways because there's benefits, and it could happen if they went straight through. especially at the non-signalized locations where we weren't concerned about that signal pole location for the pedestrians. But we have them with this kinked setup at this time. And I did see your comments, Phil. Thank you for providing your written comments. They were super helpful. I was going to ask, are you an engineer? Because your style of commenting and your formatting of your markups was kind of very professionally done.
Software engineering, but I did mechanical engineering in college.
There you go. So thank you. Your comments are helpful, and we're working through those now.
Okay.
And I saw that was one of them.
Okay. While I'm here, I have another quick comment to make. As part, and this is, I guess, more of the broader question of the Howard County by design. One of the, or what's it? A significant raised crosswalks is one of the sort of things that I've seen a number of cities take on as a recent development to aid with pedestrian safety. For cost reasons, I can see why you wouldn't do any raised crosswalks in any of these places here. But as part of the intersection with Dobbin, at least within the pocket lane for right turning vehicles, from when they're moving from Oakland Mills onto Dobbin, or the other way.
Yeah, that's fine.
At least for the pocket lane, since one of the concerns with at least with pedestrians using pocket lanes is because it's not a signalized. Drivers aren't approaching signalized infrastructure. They can sometimes there's a higher potential for conflict points there, or for pedestrian issues there. It's a short distance. That might be a good place to do a raised crosswalk if possible. And the other question is, as part of the wider design scope, do you know if more prominent raised crosswalks is something that's going to be that's currently included in the design guides?
It is something we're looking at now in the update to the design manual, and that is one of the features that we're kind of discussing when it's appropriate to use them and when it's reasonable to use them. And I agree that these right turn slip lanes can be good locations for them to help calm traffic and raise awareness of that crosswalk. So I guess the answer is yes and yes. I think this is something we can look at in this particular location for this project. And it's something that is being included in the design manual at this time.
Okay, that's fantastic to hear.
Okay, thank you very much. Rebecca, I think you said you had one more question at the end before we move on.
Sure, not related to this, just because we have Chris, and lately Warren and I have been working on the bike corrals and the Long Reach festival. Just so we were trying to do that, just for everybody else's information. I know Warren's already talked to you. We were trying to do the bike corral at the Long Reach festival, but they said they needed the space for parking. So is that a county issue? Who do we talk to about that? How do we get that changed?
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly. I just heard about this from Warren today also, and I made a comment back to him how ironic it was that
Absolutely.
I know when you guys did the corral for the 4th of July, there were 50 bikes there and taking out the space of 6 parking spaces. So, it's a parking saver, not a parking taker. So I will look into it and find out, where that regulation lies and what is the process for updating that regulation, and just finding some common sense for measures that reduce parking so that it can be done for these events. Because Warren and I have been talking, it's a great opportunity to do these bike corrals more often. It's a nice partnership between bike advocates like yourselves that can provide the volunteer time, and then with some support from the county for some of the hardware like the fencing, and potentially Columbia Association as well that have some capabilities. Just a nice partnership and a nice thing to be able to do to help people get to these events without driving a car.
Especially in these smaller neighborhood events, I think is a good focus. But okay,
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
So, yeah.
Question for Rebecca or Jonathan. Hello?
Sure,
Sure.
I hear you.
Rebecca, a real quick question. Who are you dealing with? What I'm trying to find out is where did you want to place it? Is that county land, CA land, or private land? What's the story?
Warren could answer that better.
You're on mute, Warren.
Sorry.
There you go.
For Long Reach, we tried to put it in the near the deli. Rebecca, what's the name?
Deli-town?
Deli-town. There was a small parking lot there, and we were trying to use about 6 or 9 spaces for that.
I don't know who owns that village center parking though.
The
Right, we
county,
didn't know that, so.
county, Chris, you could comment, but the county owns the Long Reach Village Center.
But so basically they said for this festival, they need so many parking spaces. They're already taking up a lot of the parking lot for music and entertainment and stuff. And they said they needed those parking spaces to count for whatever parking requirement minimums for festivals.
It might be like the special events permitting process that has a parking requirement. I haven't had a chance to look into it, like I said, but I'm guessing that's where it's coming from.
Mhm.
And it probably just hasn't come up before that there are certain measures that reduce the number of cars parked there that will be well worth the spaces. So we'll have to talk to them and see if there's a way to adjust that regulation.
How soon can you do that? Not in time for this.
Oh,
No,
I mean, I can
Change
talk to
regulations?
them right away, but if it's a regulation, yeah, it might require a county council action.
So we could approach our county council and ask them to introduce something? Not for this,
We
but-
could, but let's figure out for sure where it lies first, so we know
Okay,
we're
okay.
heading in the right direction.
Right, I'm just trying to find action steps, so if not for this event, that it's won't be so difficult in the next event.
Yes.
Okay, now I can't get myself off mute. Okay, well, Chris, Molly, thank you very much for the presentation. And I guess Sandy, are we going to have this, or maybe we already do we have this posted on the website so that anyone who needs the SurveyMonkey link or the email is able to get it quickly from us?
It can be, right, Amy?
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think I sent it to Amy.
Yeah, I can post it tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Then we'll have
But-
this up on the,
Fix the road one, the title.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. Easy fix.
I can fix it. It's okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very
all
much.
right. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Good night.
So can you unshare, please, Chris?
Yes.
Thanks a lot. We'll post it.
There we
Perfect.
go.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Okay. We are on to old business. So the first item of old business, and I think this is just going to be a standing item from now to what feels like eternity, is the latest on the school superintendent's capital budget. So, everyone on the board knows I sent an email last week, I think, and basically the capital budget and improvement plan, which is attached to our package. It's thrilling reading. It does continue to include the renovation and addition onto Oakland Mills Middle School, but it pushes occupancy out to 2030. And the project doesn't start till the late 2020s. So it's, not a funded project. They would still need to get funded for that. And then, of course, Oakland Mills High School is not on there at all. And we know that Oakland Mills High School has $111 million of deferred maintenance and counting on it. So it's the highest number in the school system, but the superintendent saw fit not to put that into the capital budget again. So obviously we're encouraging, residents, anyone who cares about Oakland Mills High, and Oakland Mills Middle to come out and testify to the Board of Education on September 23rd, which is next Thursday, because that's when the Board of Education has their work session on the superintendent's proposed budget. We're also still encouraging people to contact their other elected representatives at the county and state level, because ultimately this budget is going to come before the county, and then ultimately once the county does what it does with the budget, the school system expects to get matching funds from the state. So you all saw what I already did on the day that budget came out. I sent my remarks to our council representative, Dr. Jones. I also sent remarks to our District 13 team, that I guess to summarize it very succinctly said, see, this is what we're talking about. He came out with another budget that doesn't include that school. And I've been encouraging others to do that as well. So just an update, because I am going to change the OMCA testimony a little bit to reflect current events. Obviously, I'm going to change the testimony to point out that once again, the budget came out without Oakland Mills High, despite, everyone coming out saying Oakland Mills High needs it. The other thing I'm going to add to that is I forwarded all this to you last week as well. Over the summer during the routine indoor environmental quality inspections at Oakland Mills, they found that in the science wing, the classrooms were hitting roughly 75% relative humidity and had mold. They claim to have treated that. And then when school started this year, we had some students in the science wing complaining of headaches during the first week of school. So a new indoor environmental quality, I don't know if they call them complaints or whatever, but that basically led to a re-inspection of that wing, and they found more mold and found that the humidity was too high. And if you saw the language in that email, they directly attributed that to the design of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system in the high school. Well, we all know that heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system should have been renovated or replaced back in 2009, and it's been deferred into the current 2021. And without the school in the capital plan, it's deferred till at least 2030. So it'll be 21 years deferred if a capital plan says we're going to do it in 2031, which nothing says, but we know, through 2030, nothing is happening. And they said it's the design of the system. And my reaction when I read that email, because they said by basically opening up the system, running it more to bring in, fresher, cleaner air because of COVID, the trade-off was mold. So basically the school has a system that's so old and in such condition that the choice is to have mold or to have viruses in the air, but you have to pick one or the other. You can't just have clean air in Oakland Mills High School. So I do plan on working that in, because that is if you look at the deferred capital, that's the biggest ticket item on the $111 million. So, basically a history of superintendents and boards of education up to and including the one we'll be talking to Thursday has allowed that to happen. There's no school in worse shape, from a pure dollars and cents perspective than Oakland Mills High School. It's $111 million in counting out of an $800 million deferred maintenance deficit. So I will be working that in. I did also file another Maryland Public Information Act request to get an updated list of all the deferred maintenance, specifically on the 2 Oakland Mills buildings on that campus, because the list I'm working with is from last year. I just want to see if anything has changed. I don't know whether I'll have that in time for September 23rd, because if you look at the MPIA request for the school system, a few other Oakland Mills people are also making requests and asking questions about those buildings, which I think is a good thing. I'm fine if my MPIA takes a little while, because a lot of other people are also asking for similar information. I think that, that says something as well. So anyway, that's my plan for September 23rd. So we already decided at the last board meeting that we would just continue going ahead with these testimony at various public testimony opportunities that, you know, reiterates the message. But I did want to inform you that I will be tweaking it a bit, and I'll send you a draft. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it ready for in time for tonight, but I'll send you a draft that has some of that language addressing, you know, what the superintendent did and did not do when he introduced this on September 9th, and also the mold situation at Oakland Mills High School. Because if you're familiar with mold in schools in Howard County, you know, that helped cost a previous superintendent her job. So as much as I hate that this is happening, you know, one of the questions we've always asked was, well, is there a direct health impact of all of this? Well, now there is, because there are mold spores in the air. And if you don't want mold spores in the air, then you need to have coronavirus, you know, in the air. And actually their in-between solution is to stick a dehumidifier in every room. And I don't know if you all have dehumidifiers in your houses. I have one over here in my basement. And when that thing runs, I would not want to be a student sitting in a classroom trying to understand a teacher through a mask, you know, with the compressor on a dehumidifier running in the background, because the air conditioning system above me doesn't work right anymore. So that's my update on that. Ginny, you had a question?
Yes, thanks, John. This may not be a good question, so I need some help. But the first one is, if this isn't imposing on you, could you send us some information on, you know, when we're supposed to testify, where we send the information, the deadline, and that sort of thing, the how, when, where, and why for the 23rd? If it's not a problem, otherwise
actually,
I'll just look up the
if
whole thing.
if you check your inbox, Amy, thank you, Amy. Last Friday, Amy sent all of that for me in a community message, and we'll be sending another one.
Amy, sorry, I was busy with the CA thing on a couple of legal issues for Symphony Woods. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, it has information. It has the links for how to sign up and testify, or I think it even has the information if you want to like mail in your testimony.
Never mind.
Okay.
Forget about it. Okay, the
and
second question. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and Amy and Sandy don't know this yet because I haven't nicely asked this of them, but they're going to be getting another one from me either late this week or very early next week. Is just that final reminder to everyone, you know, saying, hey, if you haven't signed up, sign up, or if you don't want to speak publicly, just send off an email, you know, just put a few simple lines in there and send it off, because what we need them to keep hearing is Oakland Mills, Oakland Mills, Oakland Mills.
Okay, the second question, thank you, Jonathan, I apologize. So the second part, and I don't want to create a panic or anything, but can you help me understand the population projections for high school kids? If they build, you know, well, they will, the 13th school, and then they go and build the 14th school in the Elkridge area or wherever, it doesn't matter, the 14th high school. Will we have a need for all the high schools that we have? Is it possible that the new schools, especially on the east side of 29, north, east, south area, will be adequate if one of our older high schools closes? That's what I need to understand, the population thing, and I don't even know if that's an intelligent question. The reason being, I'm trying to figure out how to say this tactfully, but when you keep delaying something and delaying it and delaying it, knowing you're creating health problems, it's the only thing that will happen, and you're still not doing anything. Is it that this is earmarked for at some point, we don't need this Oakland Mills High School?
Yeah,
I'm not trying to create a panic.
No, I've wondered the same thing, and I asked Jolene Mosley that question because we've talked one-on-one a couple of times, and she actually asked that question, you know, on the record in open meeting when the superintendent introduced this thing on the September the 9th, and the answer she got on the record was no, they do not have any intention of closing down any high schools in the future. So
Okay.
that's what we have on the record. In terms of the population projections for the schools, I know the system has been notorious for being off with their projections, but they're usually off because the projections are too short, not too high. But I do not know what methodology the Office of School Planning uses for those projections. I mean, they have their formulas for the estimated number of school-age children per residential unit, depending on whether it's an apartment, condo, townhome, single-family home. But they're notorious for sort of underestimating that. So obviously right now they do have Oakland Mills High going well over capacity over the next several years, but I don't believe that accounts for new schools coming online. We know High School 13 is coming online. We can't assume that High School 14 is coming online because while it's in the capital plan, it's not funded yet. So, anything beyond next year that's in the capital plan is still on the wish list. But, our big issue with Oakland Mills High is you're not even wishing for it. You're not even putting your marker down, to tell the county and the state, we're going to be coming to you to help us fix Oakland Mills High, which I think is absurd.
That's my concern. What the heck's really going on?
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. And
Sure.
thanks for what you do.
Jen?
Hi, guys. So I have a question, Jonathan, that maybe has been answered already, but the people that I reached out to when we went to school, I remember when that music wing was built, like the new wing of it with the cafeteria and everything, we were there. And my music teacher always had issues with mold in there. Like she was always sick and she was always complaining about it. So, and the people that I talked to that I graduated with said, is this something that's like still continuing? Like, did they fix that, or is this something now that's like we're moving on past that and this is another mold issue in another area of school, because they bring that up too?
This is on the opposite side. So when they did the inspection in July, so for those who don't know the layout of the school, and I'm just learning this myself, the science wing is the far east end of the school, right next to the tennis courts. The music is the far west end of the school, basically sitting like to the side of and in front of the gym. So this was on the other side of the building. And of course, the school was built in, I believe, 3 pieces. So you have the original building. I think the science wing was the 1990s edition. That's the edition that kind of matches the style of the rest of the building. And then the 2003, 2004 edition is the part of the building that has the lighter brick that doesn't quite line up and match the rest of the building. So, the newest systems in that school date back to 2004. And then all the other systems go back in time from there. But the core of the school, if you're facing the front of the school, other than where they bump the cafeteria out, everything you see from the west corner of the school where you would enter the driveway down to that black pillar where the butterfly garden is and the school kind of bumps out a little bit, that's all the original building. So everything there, all the systems, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, all that stuff is 1973.
Gotcha.
Well,
Okay.
they've painted it a couple of times, but other than that, it's 1973. You go over to the right a little bit more. I think you might be into the early 1990s, and then if you go to the back, you're into the early 2000s.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Like my brother went to that school when it was built, but like I just want to make sure if I'm telling them correctly, like, hey, remember when we used to hear about this mold issue all the time in class? Like, try and like point that out again.
Well, and here's the difference. I mean, so even when Oakland Mills got attention, it didn't get the attention that other schools get. So here's the other thing about Oakland Mills. It got that addition in 2004. Now, if you look at what's happening in Hammond, if you look at what's planned for Centennial, if you look at what they did at Stevens Forest, or if you look at what they didn't put an addition on Thunder Hill. So Stevens Forest is an example locally. When they put the additions on, they also renovated the rest of the building. They took, or they're taking older buildings and they're putting additions on. And while they're doing all that demolition and construction, they're also fixing up the old parts of the building. When they put the additions onto Oakland Mills, they literally just built an addition, knocked out the wall in between, and there you have it. So if well, you went to Oakland Mills, but for those of you who maybe haven't been in there recently, when you're walking in the building, you can tell when you hit the early 2000s part of the school, because the lights are literally brighter. The ceiling tiles are still mostly white instead of kind of a yellow brown color like people have been smoking in there or something, even though they, other than the bathrooms, haven't. I mean, you can tell, you can smell it, even through a mask, you can smell the difference in the air, you can feel the difference in the humidity, stuff like that. So they, I mean, literally just tacked on additions, knocked out the walls, and didn't take care of the rest of the building, which is, from what I can tell, a break from a break from precedent. They don't seem to have done that in other facilities that I'm familiar with, and that doesn't seem to be what the plan is for facilities that are in the capital budget for additions going forward.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
So that was a very long way of answering your simple question. So the answer to your question is no, not in the same place as it was when you were there, but moved.
Cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on that? All right. Like I said, I will send you an updated draft of the testimony. I just could not get to it over the past several days. I apologize. And I also have had a phone call with the principal just to confirm a few things and make sure that whatever I do basically reflects on the school system itself and doesn't reflect on his administration of the school or the abilities of his custodial staff or anything like that. And he basically said, just fire away, you're good, I trust you. So I'll send you a draft of something soon. We'll get another email out, and we'll keep going from there. I think the next milestone after September 23rd is, I want to say it's the planning board meeting in October. The school system goes in and presents to the planning board, because the planning board is advisory to the council. So normally they would talk to the planning board before they would go all the way forward to the council, is I believe the order. But I sent that chart around. I don't have it up in front of me on my multiple monitors and things I have going on here. I think that's all I have on that. But in good news, if you go by Oakland Mills High School and you go by the big side wall of the gym that was just a big blank brick wall, they got something really cool. And I don't know who provided this. I'm going to ask and find out, but it wasn't there early this morning, and it appeared sometime during the school day today. And let me see if I can share this, because why does nothing work when I want it to? All right, let me see if I can share this thing. There we go. So, they got something to make that bland old brick wall look better, which I thought was nice. They've had those on Longreach High School for a while, and every time I've gone by Longreach, I've always said that would look cool on Oakland Mills, to have a big scorpion on there and break up that, that brick wall that just faces the dumpsters in the parking lot. So I guess someone else was inspired as well. So I'll find out where that thing came from. But like I said, 7:15 this morning, it was not there. 2:30 this afternoon, it was. So
That's fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. It's
All
like
right.
the old one that we used to have.
Yeah. I've noticed there's a variety of. I've noticed this at several of the schools. They have a variety of versions of their mascots. I guess because nothing is really licensed or copyrighted, so they just find a clip art scorpion or Mustang, or I don't know what Longreach uses for a lightning bolt, but I think they just sort of use what's available over time.
Jonathan, here's the calendar.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So yeah, county council legislation. I don't believe there's an opportunity to testify there. I think the next hearing where the public can testify is October 7th, and then the county council, is October 18th. So it is the planning board before the council. Thanks, Andy. All right. So let me just move on. Board chair report. I know that the prospective owners of the prospective 7-Eleven have made their submission to the NRAC, and the NRAC has been reviewing that submission and, you know, working with them on some changes. So from the village board perspective, that's, you know, moving along through our process as it should. So, you know, that's just for the board's information. There's no board action necessary at this point. We're still waiting for Cedar to come back with a realistic plan for the demolition and something of the second chance place. I mean, they clearly intend to demolish it, but their original very draft proposal would not conform to our guidelines or our covenants. So they never formally submitted that and said they would work on something better after reviewing our documents. But, you know, there's been nothing new from that. So, you know, they can take their time and come up with something better if they if they need the time to come up with something better than the rock garden. Yes, Rebecca.
Oh, I am unmuted. I thought I was muted. I don't know if it's appropriate or not to ask Lynn about the 7-Eleven, if I can ask a question about that.
Sure, you can ask the question. I don't know if I can
Yeah,
answer.
she may
it.
not answer it, but you can ask it.
I can throw the words out there to the universe. You and I had kind of talked about how nice it would be to encourage them to be a bit more pedestrian centered. Is that something that the RAC is talking to them about?
Well, it's not the RAC, it's the NRAC. So I
Oh,
haven't been in
NRAC,
those
yeah.
meetings. So I'm sure they're
Oh, right.
talking about it. And they're you know, the NRAC is very concerned about the how it faces onto Stevens Forest Road.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know anything more than that. They just had their meeting today with the.
What was your,
the developer.
what, can you define what you mean by the pedestrian part?
Oh, well, just, you know, if our village center is supposed to be a place for pedestrians and people to walk, especially with the apartments across the street and wanting people to, you know, feel welcome in the village center, not enclosed in their car. Just thinking about some alternatives for having giant gas pumps that block the sidewalk from the village center and all these cars coming in and out is not going to be welcoming of foot traffic into the village center. And if there was a different way to maybe switch the convenience store to be curbside and the gas pumps to be out back or to the side, you know, like I'm not really sure what various alternatives that gas stations do, you know, in the city. I mean, I know terrible examples in the city, but if there's good examples, just trying to be creative with making our village center, you know, keeping our village center's goal of, yeah, that's it.
More walkable.
More walkable. Thank you. More inviting.
Oh, and-
Especially if we're trying to pursue some kind of Stevens Forest streetscape.
Yes.
Well, I think that was discussed at the NRAC meeting, and I'll be getting their report and their advice.
Is there a way to, like, I don't know, you know, when you do things, I know who you are. I can email you. Can we email the NRAC about our concerns?
I think that was during the public.
Yeah, we had a 3-week comment
public
period.
comment period. So the process is that you submit your comments, and then the NRAC meets, and the NRAC takes all of those comments into consideration.
Huh.
But I actually do think that comments to that effect did come in during the period. I know there were comments about the orientation of the buildings.
Absolutely, and about the streetscape and about what the interface would be with the village center itself and with Stevens Forest Road. So I'm sure that was, I'm positive that was part of it.
It's on the radar.
Yeah, totally on the radar.
Now, my daughter missed the comment period, so she just wanted me to say this, even though I know it can't be considered. But she said that if the canopy on the 7-Eleven does have to have the racing stripes instead of, what is it, green and red for 7-Eleven, she wants them to be black and orange.
Black and orange, sure.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, talk to 7-Eleven about that.
Corporate headquarters go for that.
I told her I would say it. I didn't tell her it was likely to happen. I just told her I would say it.
Well,
Okay.
all ideas are welcome.
In other business news, it was very interesting. I was in talking to the Chris, the owner of Pizza Man, last week, and he brought up the opening of NYC Pizza. And before I could say anything, he said, "You need to get over there and try it. They have really good pizza." And I said, "You're telling me to go get pizza somewhere else?" He's like, "You know what? They have really good pizza, and in about a month, I'm introducing Indian food, so I'm kind of diversified here. My
Is
name
it
is
open?
Pizza
I didn't
Man, but
even
I'm a
know
lot
it
more than
was
pizza."
open. I didn't drive.
At that point, it wasn't open yet, but he said he had stopped at another location because apparently
Oh,
there was a
okay.
location on his way home, and he gave it a
Okay.
try, and it's the same owner. So he's like, "Oh yeah, give him a try." I said, "Okay, well, good. Then, I hope it's healthy competition where everyone wins." And he goes, "Hey, I'm introducing Indian food, so you'll be able to get a lot of other food here other than pizza if he wants to, take some of the pizza business." So
That's
Hey,
funny.
I thought that was nice. We have our village center merchants in healthy in healthy competition.
Together, supporting each
Jonathan,
Yeah.
it is New York,
Yes.
But you're saying we'll be able to get food other than pizza there? He's gonna
Well,
have Indian
actually,
food?
Pizza Man has a lot of food other than pizza.
Hmm.
Yeah, we get
Well, I know he has subs and other
he
pizza
has
place things,
subs, he has salads, he actually has full like entree platters. Yeah, he has a big menu.
but Indian food, now that I
Yeah.
can get excited
He's originally
They're
from
from
Nepal,
Nepal.
and I hope I didn't jinx him. He
about.
was planning on introducing Indian food shortly after he opened,
Yeah.
and then there was the fire. And
Well,
then he opened again, and then there was COVID. And then
if you see him, tell him I have pre-orders in for him already.
okay, I will let him know. Yes, I will, because I told him I'm very excited. I told him years ago I was very excited for that. And then darn it, he had the fire on the roof and had to shut down the dining room. And I don't know that I'll need to ask him again. Back then,
He's
the
from
reason
South
he
Asia,
delayed
isn't he?
introducing Indian food was
Jonathan?
he didn't want to offer it for carry out. He wanted to offer it for dine in only because he felt that the food doesn't transport well. Like he wants to serve it fresh in the restaurant. So that's why he was delaying it. And I'll have to ask whether he's, kind of solved that one or given up on that one, or whether it's still going to be in-house dining only. But that was his plan at that time. And then he had the fire, and then COVID hit. So he hasn't introduced it yet, but he said he's about a month out from doing it now.
So he's from South Asia, isn't he?
He's from Nepal.
Nepal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
oh, good, yeah.
Yeah.
So knows what he's talking about with the
Yeah.
food. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be pizza subs and a whole lot more soon, apparently.
An odd mixture.
Yes. Ginny? Oh, Ginny, you're muted.
Okay, just a quick question. Lynn, I think you'd be the expert on this. At the CA board meeting, that we were asking if CB 29 applied to the not Royal Farms, 7-Eleven. And I'm pretty sure it didn't, but that was the answer. It doesn't. And the reason, though, is it was given was our CB 29 never really got approved by, and it was a little unclear, the county council or the zoning board or the government. Is that true? Or-
That's true. It's not our CB 29, it was our village
A village center.
center plan, our VCCP was never, and the fact that it was put on the county's website when we were doing the feasibility study, but that did not mean that they had adopted it and approved it.
I
So
don't think any villages are they, Lynn?
I think Wild Lake was.
Wild Lake was for
And
sure.
maybe Hickory Ridge. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you may be right. And I'm just wondering, like, what should we do about that? Or, I mean, here's my concern is they're looking at, well, so how do you expect that those, whatever you did in the village center plan, you can't enforce it. And this could be pretty serious if we
Well,
get.
and also, I mean, in truth, I mean, that whole thing with the VCCP was before my time, but in truth, it includes as part of our village, Shadow Oaks and the Verona and different things which are privately owned. So it wouldn't, I think that might have been the sticking point, that you can't really
Well, was it?
The county council makes the determination.
So
Well, I guess the
since we
question
don't know, why don't we do this? Because Ashley, hopefully you're here listening. Ashley, would you be able to find out which village center community plans were approved by the council and why certain ones have been approved and others haven't?
Can I add to that, Jonathan?
Sure.
Well, I think the question also is, it sounds to me like maybe our plan, if it's not so much our plan wasn't accepted. My question is, was it ever submitted to the appropriate government?
Yes, and when I contacted Val about that, I asked that very question, and he said, yes, it was not approved.
But then there had to be a public hearing and they had to have a vote, and I've never seen anything like that. So I would double check that. I mean, it can't be just Val saying it's not approved. It's got to go to the
No, I
county.
think also, I mean, Amy Gowan has said it and Jessica from CA has said it. You know, I've asked a lot of people and you know, I guess going back to the drawing board and saying, well, what parts of it were not acceptable, but that was, you know.
Yeah, because even with Shadow Oaks, there's vacant land there that they are entitled to, I think, 54 more units, which they want to be concerned about how that could be developed, expanded. So I guess I'm still confused about, I don't remember any hearing. The council can't just say no without a hearing. I'm not sure it ever reached their level, I guess. I'm totally confused.
Yeah, no idea. I mean, I came in with the feasibility study and that was already in.
Don't remember it ever going there.
That's, I think, is probably the answer. I don't think it was disapproved as much as it just never reached the
I
level.
think that it was like, these are our village recommending plans, but I didn't even know any of them had been formally approved. But you know, who's very good at helpful is Jessica Bella as well.
The thing, what I don't understand, I mean, not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but what I don't understand about the village center community plan is even if a village has an approved VCCP, they're not necessarily specific enough. I don't know how you then act on the VCCP, because they're full of, you know, things that we want or nice to haves, but they're not specific enough to state exactly what the village center should be.
Yeah, I think it was sort of a dream, you know, a dream plan. This is kind of what we wish our village center would be like, you know, and it would be nice to have it this way, nice to have it that way. We have a unique situation in Oakland Mills in that we have so many different property owners, A, so that's a real problem. And B is that I think even with the VCCP, even if it had been, you know, approved and adopted and whatever, and could be acted on by CB 29, that would only be true in the case of a major village center redevelopment. So something like Dunkin' Donuts is not a major redevelopment. Even I've been told even the idea of Second Chance isn't a major redevelopment. Whereas Wild Lake was a major redevelopment. They did the whole shebang, and the plans for what Kimco had proposed, which I think the village rejected, for the Hickory Ridge Village Center, or not the village center, but the shopping core of it, that was a major redevelopment. But if it's one store or another store, that's a minor redevelopment, and it doesn't come under CB 29.
So that actually leads me to another question, because I don't know whether Hickory Ridge has a council approved VCCP, but doesn't Council Bill 29 apply to the village centers regardless? Doesn't Council Bill 29 itself give the village board certain rights?
No,
I
but
thought so.
because of that, but in regard to the VCCP.
Okay.
It's
And
all
for
been all
major
the-
redevelopment, not for, you know, they're going to put a new facade on a store, you know. Or
Right. Yeah.
So they
Ashley's
were
here. She
tearing
wants
down,
to
what
say
they did when
something.
they tore down our old village center, the original one, the Rouse Company one, and did what we have now, our strip center. That had we had CB 29 at that time, we could have objected to that and said, we really do not want a strip center.
Well, but my question is, would we have to have had CB 29 and an approved VCCP, or I thought just CB 29?
That was my understanding, that the VCCP was the first step, which was why we were encouraged to do it.
Absolutely. And if we really need to reread CB 29, Kay's an expert in this, and it did require each village, and every village, in my understanding, had done a village plan with the understanding that it would be considered for when a developer comes in and says they want to do something, it would be considered. Now, I think Lynn's point is what complicates it for us as compared to somebody that owns the whole thing like Kimco in most villages, or Giant in Owen Brown. We actually could be at a big disadvantage in that, somebody takes little parcels and decides what they want to do. And yeah, if it meets approval, but it doesn't have to comply with anything that we maybe said would be good for the village, which is kind of sad. We're in this awkward spot with Oakland.
Yeah, I think that to Jonathan's point, I think that if it really it's something that we really were opposed to, we do have avenues to do that. But clearly we don't have enough information now. I mean, all of our memories, we have, some of us remember back to feasibility study. Nobody except you, Jenny, I think, and Sandy, I guess you remember about the VCCP. We need more information before we can really go forward with this.
Yeah, I mean, I can say this much because, Ginny, Bill, Sandy, and I were here, during the VCCP, because I think that was around the 2013, 2014 range. And I think we would have taken notice if we had sent it to the county, they published it on our website, and then the council came back and said, we didn't adopt this for the following reasons, but I don't think there was ever any communication back or anything.
I feel like we did it because the CB 29 enabled the villages to do it. And that it was filed with the county along with the other villages that pretty much everyone has. And if there was a major redevelopment, we could refer to it and use it as our guiding principle in our community response. But it wasn't, I don't believe there was ever the thing, well, you need to get it passed by the council or anything.
And it's not a master plan. It's not really, it's nothing, it's not a development
vision. It was
plan.
a vision.
Vision, yeah. And so something where we can say, we don't want you to have a blah, blah, blah in our village because.
And they would look at it as like, this was a vision that we accepted and we will refer to it. When
which is 8 years. 8 years ago now.
Yeah, it was,
Well, what I'm hearing from Jessica is, in fact, they can't do that because we never went through the appropriate channels to get it approved.
That's what I've heard.
I guess the county council. So in fact, if we are interested in having that as something that we could look at a development and say, hey, it doesn't meet this, we need to go find out what that process is and see if there's a step we should be taking.
Well, I think that if we were to go down that route, I would want us to take a look at any needed revisions to the VCCP, because it is 8 years ago and stuff has happened to our village, stuff has happened to the demographics of our community. And some of the things that we said we really wanted and our vision for it aren't really applicable anymore. So, but good point.
So to start, I would just like to get clarification on the process for the benefit, not just of Oakland Mills, but all Columbia villages, because I'm on the Howard County Community and Master Plans website, and they have village center community plans published for 8 of the villages. And I wonder how many of these 8 villages just assume that this means they have a village center community plan, on file with the county that they can use, because there's nothing on this denoting which ones are council approved and which ones are just.
We have it on there too. We have filed with the county and it's on the county, the county is aware of it. The county can look at it. It's just not, it's not a mandate to build out the village center according to the VCCP. I think that's where that it's not something, it's not it's not like zoning rules. We haven't, what we've said,
No.
we said we want a cafe, doesn't mean we get a cafe. It doesn't mean, no, you can't put something in, you can't put a laundromat in because we said we wanted a cafe. So it's not marching orders. It's more a vision and a goal for what we wanted.
But that, I mean, that takes me back to the original question. What does it matter then whether the council adopts it or not?
It doesn't, except that they won't go, it doesn't matter particularly unless we have something where Cedar Properties sells their properties and they're going to tear down the whole thing and do something different. And then it would matter. But then I think at that point, we can go back and say, hey, this isn't what we want. I don't think that we, CB 29 is only for major redevelopment. It's only if they were going to level the whole thing, tear down the barn, and Shadow Oaks was going to become not a condo, and the Interfaith Center was to go away.
But that's why. I'd really like to request that you can get us full information, because I feel like we're talking in circles, because I'm looking at the site right now. And it says on the site where it has 8 of the villages with village center community plans, 8 of the 9 village community associations have prepared village center community plans, excluding Dorsey Search. And I guess they're also excluding town center, but they always get left out, which are master plans for each village center. And then it lists them. It lists links to all of them. So how are the villages supposed to know whether these are worth the paper they're printed on because of what the council did or didn't do?
Well, first of all, I don't think the VCCP is not a master plan. So are they?
No, I'm reading what the county says about these things.
Master plan? Okay.
It says village center community. Here, I'll share. This is easier. I'll just share the screen so we're not wasting time. Did I share the right screen? Can you see my?
Yeah.
Okay.
Village centers, community plan. Long reach master plan. See, that was actionable.
No, right here.
Well,
8 of the 9
Our
village.
original one was called the Oakland Mills Master Plan.
So wait. I don't want to get diverted. Stop. It says right here on the county site, 8 village associations have prepared village center community plans, which are master plans for each village center. That's what the county says about them.
okay, Jonathan.
So, I don't.
It's really fruitless for us to sit here and argue about this.
No, that's why I'm saying instead
nine.
of us talking about it, I'm asking Ashley, can you find out for us what it means when the county says this? Are all 8 of these plans treated the same? Are certain ones treated differently because the council approved them? Because if I go to the county website and I'm any of these villages, I think, okay, the county thinks this is my village center master plan.
I think we all have community plans. I think Long Reach had a master plan. We had a master plan too that predated, and you can see it right there, Oakland Mills master plan. That predated the VCCP. So we said that the VCCP at that point, my understanding, because we were kind of getting ready for CB 29 and the feasibility study, we said that the VCCP would supersede our master plan that was in 2007.
Yes, absolutely. That's what it was intended. I'm not trying to solve this tonight. I simply started this with, could we look into what is the process, and then the board will decide, forget about it, or I don't like that process. I'm just asking, we need the facts. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing one thing from somebody, something else from somebody else. It's just 10 minutes ago, the only thing I had in mind was getting the facts.
Bill's been so patiently sitting there with his hand up. Bill? Bill?
Yep, I had to unmute first. I was on a different document. I'm reading from Council Bill 29, 2009. One section says Village Center redevelopment major, a redevelopment of a new town village center that includes any proposal, et cetera, et cetera. Next section, Village Center redevelopment minor, a redevelopment of a new town village center which is not a major village center redevelopment, et cetera, et cetera. So, and it covers both major and minor, and there are further definitions, et cetera, et cetera.
Jonathan, and to answer the question,
Yes.
yes, I will look into everything
Okay.
that everyone has said, and I've taken all the notes. So that way, if I have any questions, then I will reach back out.
Okay, all right, yeah, yeah, and I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to point out that what the county itself publishes is potentially very misleading, because all of these documents are lumped together under this heading that says these are the master plans for 8 of the 9 village centers.
Well, and our master plan is there, but I think that the takeaway from this is that you can't take as gospel what you see on an internet page.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well,
They say one thing, it's there on their page, and that must
generally I like to believe that, but I would like to think that our government is at least going to get it right if they're publishing information under their own law.
Something today from our county government and put out there, and I found 3 misspellings, and one of the misspellings was done multiple times, and I thought,
but my point is maybe that is wrong, but then they need to fix that page so as not to imply to our villages that
but
that's
the 6 of us, 7 of us sitting here tonight aren't going to solve.
Hey, Lynn, stop being so critical. At least with their spelling errors. Oh God. Okay, sorry. No, I'm not.
All right. So I actually I actually just went right from my old business into the chair report, because when I updated the agenda, I wrote the Orchard Green crosswalk on page 2. So we're actually still in old business, and Warren wants to talk to us about the Orchard Green path and 108 crosswalk.
I'll pull it up, Warren.
Sandy thought we'd have a light agenda and end early.
And it's my husband's birthday, and he's holding his birthday dinner.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Warren, come on, get us through this. Let's go.
Okay, as you can see on the screen, I can't see it yet, but I put together a letter that I'm hoping to send out to our representatives. This is about Orchard Green and how it's unsafe and how we need it needs to be funded, and it needs coordination between the three parties, which is the state, MDOT, Howard County Transportation, and the Columbia Association. And I'm hoping you guys can read this, and Lynn, you can spot all my misspellings.
I am.
She's checking it. She's checking it right now.
Checking it right now.
I'm sorry. What did you say, Warren? About you said the state. Did you say county government?
Right. It's the state, Howard County, and the Columbia Association.
The three that are okay. Thank you.
Right.
And so skimming this, I don't see any misspellings, but I am seeing that this is essentially what you've discussed with us in previous meetings, correct?
This is correct.
Yeah. Looks good.
The only thing that's new is I mentioned the businesses across Maryland 108.
Mhm.
And I actually mentioned this at a meeting today with the BAG, and it was that was a very powerful statement. Everyone kind of lit up when I mentioned all the businesses that basically we would have potential to access if we had this crosswalk.
Yeah, and you talked to us about that too.
I did.
At our
Okay.
last meeting, you mentioned it.
This is great, Warren. Thanks for all your persistence on this.
Well, thank you.
Warren, thank you. I just had one more comment, and I'm sorry, I didn't notice this because I was reading it quickly today for the content. in the salutation, my recommendation would be that
Oh.
you know, address it specifically to all the people who will be receiving it, so it doesn't feel like, you know, they don't make them feel like generic representatives. Give them their, you know,
So-
give them their titles and everything.
So should I do one letter to each of them?
Or I think you could, you know,
Kind of ideal. That's
Dear
like, yeah.
yeah,
Dear
or-
council members.
or you could
dear-
do, yeah, dear council members,
dear
dear state
state
delegation.
delegates.
Yeah,
Right, right. That, and I
had
was
said
gonna
that,
do,
yeah.
Yeah.
Sandy suggested that, and I
Yeah.
was gonna do that,
Right.
okay.
but thank you.
Well, actually then, Warren, you really have 4 parties, not 3. You've got, if I understand it, the
And
county.
CA.
County council, yeah, CA, the county council, the delegation, and what was the 4th? Thought there was a 4th. What department, the department you're dealing with?
Oh, isn't that the county?
That's,
Okay, do you want to send it to Calvin and then CC is the department? Because Calvin should be getting it really, and then you send it to the county council, and then you send it to Lakey, but it would obviously go to Dennis. You could CC Dennis.
Well, yeah, I definitely think it should also be addressed to the county executive, because, you know, from the executive is going to prepare the budget, you know, for the departments, and
Right.
one of his departments would have to have the money to do their part.
Right, and with the delegation, you might want to, this would be a lot of work. Well, send it to the separate delegates, unless that's too much work, then it's
Yeah,
just,
that's a lot.
okay, District 13, and then at the bottom, you'd put Senator Gazone and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
so do we need a motion to approve to send this?
One thing I did want to say is that it does need a little bit of light editing. So,
Of what?
Amy's an editor.
yeah,
Warren,
I saw a few things. I mean, we can, it's
why
just
don't you
light
send
editing.
them, Amy, send them to Warren.
Okay, but I need the letter, so,
I'll send it to you.
okay.
Can we move for approval, assuming the edits will be acceptable to Warren?
I'll motion, whoa. I'll motion for approval of what used to be on my screen, but now is gone.
I
I'll-
have to email Amy. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I will make a motion to approve a letter to the county executive, county council, state delegation, and Columbia Association leadership in support of collaboration and funding for the Orchard Green Tot Lot Path, the section of the county path, and the state crosswalk necessary to connect the Orchard Green Tot Lot to the opposite side of Route 108 at Red Branch.
Could you
Second.
say that one more time?
No.
Second, I'll second it. I understood what he was saying.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Oh, watch it.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 6, 7, 0, 0.
And Amy, thank you for looking this over. I appreciate that.
Woo. All right. We're gonna get Phil to his birthday dinner. All right, Ginny. Where'd Ginny go?
You're
There's
muted.
Ginny.
Okay.
Pardon me? Yeah, I know. I just try and mute it because Chuck insists upon watching TV. He's crying about the Ravens, but other than that, he's trying the Orioles tonight. which
Oh,
he
well.
wound up crying as well, right? Okay, well, I'm sorry I'm late. We have this closed meeting with our lawyers on a little project, Symphony Woods, whatever you want to call it, but we hope to get that worked out real quick. The second thing, though, is we're working on getting a presentation to the village boards on a study CA is doing through our climate sustainability and change advisory committee, which is a fabulous committee, guys. And we have a consultant, and we've been working for, I guess, about 8 months or so with them on looking at CA vulnerability due to climate change. And they have all these maps and everything you'll be seeing. We're meeting again this Thursday, but it's really exciting to show our assets, CA's assets, and what the issues will be in terms of projected climate change. So I think this could be really exciting, and we'll be ready to present it maybe in about a month or so. And people have been contributing ideas about Oakland Mills, stream erosion, and others, from different villages, Wild Lake, other places. The watershed committees have been actively involved and contributing. So it's being headed up by the climate committee, but everybody else has been involved. Bob Marietta in Oakland Mills has been phenomenal on this. He's actually not only on the climate committee, but also on the watershed committee. And he's been a big leader in this whole thing. So I'm a little bit excited about it because you'll know which one of our assets is going to go underwater or no, I'm kidding. Well, I hope
Probably not kidding.
I don't know. What?
I said you're not kidding.
I'm not, yeah. Well, this is one of our problems with tot lots and where they're located and what the issues will be for that. So you've got to face it. And these guys are actually experts and have the data and the ability to map this for the future. It's not just what's happening today, but what is being anticipated for the future and what the recommendations will be. So I'm excited about it. That's about it. I'll talk more later about budget issues and stuff. You'll be seeing a lot of that and you'll be involved in that. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sandy?
I'll be quick because we're way behind. So Rebecca and Warren, our festival, I've not even heard of a Long Reach festival, but ours is October 2nd, only if it's nice. Do you want to do some bike corrals? Or no?
When is it? When is it?
October 2nd. What is Long Reach? I never even heard of it.
There was the 15th and the 16th. It's their 50th anniversary.
Oh, of October?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, we don't have to. There's places for people to probably lock their bikes up. I'm just throwing it out there. I guess not.
We don't, sorry, hold on. We don't have racks or anything yet. We're still kind of working out details. Long Reach's thing was just going to be a pretty big, much bigger than our usual.
I just didn't want you to think I didn't care.
No, we know you care and support us.
We still feel loved.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
In the future, we'll be there.
Okay.
We just got to get our act together.
No, that's fine because it's, if it rains, then it's not going to happen anyway.
It's not going to rain. I have too many potted plants out back waiting to be given away.
Sandy, be more positive about it. Just because our pool parties get rained out.
We've had a lot of rainy festivals.
I know.
For everyone, and I know this is for Warren, he'll enjoy knowing that our shirts and our business cards and name tags are in. Amy and I just have to sort it, or Brigida and I. So probably starting next Wednesday, anytime Monday through Thursday between 9:30 and 4. You can come and pick up your goodies. If you can't pick them up then whenever, let me know because there could be another time, but we're pretty much there those days. So we'll have them all sorted with your name. So even if we're not there, they'll be probably back in Amy's office or something sorted out for you.
Does that mean I'm official? Once I get that, I'm official?
You've been official, but I know you're anxious for all that stuff. So we'll sort yours first. I'll let you know.
Okay. Mine's the real big one.
It's bright orange. I must tell you,
it's bright orange.
It is, because that way when we all go to testify, you don't have to worry about having an orange shirt. We're giving you one that says Oakland Mills on it.
Great.
Whether you like it or not.
Okay.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. And bright. So the Stevens Forest Road, thank you, Ashley, for following through with DPW. We got a letter explaining the reasons why they couldn't do a lot of the safety things we wanted done and studies that they will do. And Jonathan and Warren sent back their comments and questions. And so I'm going to send back a letter to Jen Biddle at DPW and just asked for clarification about, well, you're going to do a study. When will it be done? When will the results be done? When will things be done? Why can't you do this? Because this is done somewhere else. So we're going to put together a letter because there are safety concerns. In the letter, it said that there was no money for the Stevens Forest streetscape project now and probably into the near future. But we'll put together a letter and Jonathan and Warren's comments. So that's that. Really, I don't have anything else to say. Nothing else to say unless anyone has questions. Okay.
Now, one thing I'll just point out when they, say there's still no money for the Stevens Forest streetscape, because we just heard about the Oakland Mills Road presentation. Rebecca raised the, the Lake to Lake bike trail. Stevens Forest Road itself is part of the Lake to Lake trail. If you look at it on Google Maps or something, when you come off the multi-use path, you go south down Stevens Forest, and then you basically go through the elementary school's parking lot to stay on the Lake to Lake trail. So maybe we should start also pitching this as, one of the missing links, because they seem to be taking care of everything around it, but then there's a hole in the middle of the Lake to Lake trail.
Well, I think the streetscape is something different from, it's part of, it includes.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I think it's one more thing, right? Because maybe then you get more advocates behind our streetscape. Because right now, the Stevens Forest streetscape sounds like, an Oakland Mills thing for the village center, but it's actually part of something larger that has, Columbia wide, if not at least East County wide.
And as I recall, it was presented as part of what they did down Whiteacre, and it was, it was approved, presented years ago. Maybe even 10 years ago.
Right.
So I don't know why suddenly there's no money for it, because it was kind of ready to roll.
That's why we were anxious for them to do that part of the road. I really recall before Whiteacre, and
yes, right.
It's very frustrating.
Very frustrating. I agree. Beautiful plan we had for it.
Yeah, that's our gateway road.
Yeah.
And we said we want that to be the priority, and it didn't matter what we said at that point.
And it was who?
Yeah, I'm just saying what I'm saying is an idea of maybe getting more people behind it, because
which lakes? I'm really out of this.
Well, the Lake to Lake trail is Wild Lake to Kittamuckundy to Elkhorn.
Oh, okay.
And Stevens Forest Road is part of the Lake to Lake, because if you think about it, when you're coming east from Kittamuckundy, you take the multi-use path, and then to get to Elkhorn, you actually have to start heading south. So you don't continue on the multi-use path to the east, you turn to the south, and then you pick up the path system behind Stevens Forest again. But if you I don't know if you look at Google Maps, you will actually see Stevens Forest Road also labeled as Lake to Lake Trail from the village center to the elementary school.
Okay. And people come off the bridge towards our village center with no nice streetscape or even good signage.
Or no crossing.
Anything. Yeah, no crossing.
Yeah, so I just thought this might be a way of, maybe getting some advocates behind this beyond just, people local to Oakland Mills who want to see the village center look nicer. Just an idea.
Good idea.
All right, Sandy, anything else?
Looking at Google Maps.
Okay, Lynn, it used to say that, maybe it doesn't. I'll have to check after the meeting, but it used to, I know that much. Of course, it also has Route 100 still labeled as the Baltimore Beltway. And Lynn, architecture?
Yeah, I have just a couple of things. We're moving along. I think that Mike Vaughn is doing a great job. He's really kind of finding his feet, being the covenant advisor for the exterior alterations. And I have a report from Carrie, who is the person in charge.
She's here too. She's at the meeting too.
Oh yeah, I know. I asked her if she wanted to give the report, and she said no, she wanted me to do it. So Carrie, if you want to chime in, please do. No?
Okay.
Yeah, she said no. So just really quickly, she's been handling the letters of compliance, and she gave me a report as to how many have been done. in the past year, since in this year, since 2021, beginning of 2021, there have been 70 requests for letters of compliance, or 69, almost 70. Of those, 22 are completed, we're fine. 8 are still getting a second visit back. It sounds really not so hot when you hear that 42 were not compliant and 5 are pending, but I think that that's that actually is not that different than it's been in previous years. The thing that really jumped out at me that I really liked, and Carrie and I are going to talk about it a little bit more, that when she's gone around since being her responsibility being really focused on letters of compliance, and based on her experience previously as the person who worked with the RAC on the exterior alterations, that when she's gone around to see the letters of compliance, she's been able to pick out things where actually that the people who did their exterior alteration didn't actually do it the way that they proposed, or that it's not necessarily the way it is on what we have on file. And so that's something that I've always kind of wondered about, but we've never really had the ability to go and take a look. She said it's mainly things where the windows don't match. You know, it's not major things, but it's an interesting, you know, just to know that when we approve something and the thing is constructed, that it's a good idea to go back and check and see did they really do it the way we've always wondered, but we didn't have the ability to do it. So I think this is a good possibility now to be able to see that if things can be verified that it's actually done the way it was intended to be done. And then the only other thing is, as Sandy said, that the NRAC met together, just the NRAC members, first of all, to go through the application for the submission for the 7-Eleven, and then this morning, actually, they had a long meeting with the 7-Eleven representative and with the attorney. So that's really chugging along pretty nicely.
So Lynn, what's the process
Oh, I can tell.
for the 7-Eleven? How does that all work?
So it's at us. We're the but concurrently, they're doing submittals with the county, and it will go to actually the planning board, and it will also then go to the site development plan, will go to all of the different departments for them to comment on each part of the plan.
All of the departments that plan.
And I asked today, like, what's the timeline? And it's more likely a year from now that you'll be feeling like there's going to be shovels and things happening. So it will, you know, at our end, if, you know, the board continues to support this, and, you know, we can let the county know of our support so that that's not a question. But,
yeah, I think it also goes to the design advisory panel as well.
Oh, okay. So there's,
So
you know,
it's
a lot of steps. They're moving forward with the county. They're not necessarily waiting on us at all. But
Right.
It's with anything like this, it's a long process.
Sure.
Which is good. You don't want them just throwing something up without everybody being.
And
able
it's
to-
currently still owned by the former owner, with his authority for them to come to us and show us plans and go to the county and show them plans. It's been signed off, not as an approval, as acknowledgement by all of the nearby property owners. So that's where we're at. It's a great group to work with. And the NRAC are all architects and engineers. I mean, there's, you know, they're a professional committee as well. Right, Lynn?
Yeah, so that's all I have. Yeah, thanks, Sandy.
Rebecca has a
Lynn?
question.
Yeah, real quick about the what you were just saying, how people aren't in compliance when they go to sell. It's funny because I was just having this discussion with my neighbor, and he said he did a whole bunch of he applied and he did a whole bunch of things, but now he wants to have the RAC to come out to verify that he has done everything like he said he wanted to do. And I said, no, there's no such thing. They don't do that. It's just when you sell, they'll check. but he wants to just make sure that he's checked off and that he's good to go.
You know, he could send us an email.
Sure.
And, you know, when if Mike has some time, he'd probably run over and look at it if he's in the area. It's not something we do routinely, but, you know, if someone's been that great about applying for everything, and I think I know who it is, then yes, but he shouldn't know we're not going to give him a letter saying it's compliant because that letter's only good for that day. So, but he can know that what he did matched his application, but, you know, if we give him a letter of compliance, it's not good if he sells it more than like 2 months from now, basically.
Yeah, it's not like you're waiting
so he
to
can
close your
contact
books.
Mike and
Yeah,
mention that Sandy at the meeting asked it. You
Uh-huh.
know, I think we have enough manpower now that we can do that.
gotcha. It's not like you're waiting to close your books on his project or anything.
Oh,
It's
no,
purely
no.
his, yeah.
No, but you know, there's some people that have been so great about it, and he's probably one of them, that it would be, if he wants that reassurance now rather than waiting, then have him contact us and we'll just look at it, you know.
Okay.
And also,
Right.
I mean, it would really
Right,
behoove him, yeah, and it would behoove him if he's done anything even minor difference from what he applied for, to be sure that his application that was originally approved is, you know, that they jive.
Yeah, and Carrie said she would check it out so she can get the application
Yeah.
easily. So yeah, that's fine. You can send it to Carrie, actually. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And anything else?
Not from me.
All right. Then I think we are on to the bulletin board. Yes. Okay. I'll just work from the order of the squares so I'll start with Amy. Anything?
No, I don't have anything.
All right, Sandy,
Mm.
Ginny,
No.
okay, Rena,
I'm gonna say no.
all right, Jen,
Nope.
Rebecca,
Nope.
Warren,
So I heard at the Bicoco meeting a couple of days ago that at Oakland Mill High School, all the bike racks are full and they're actually looking for more bike racks now. So as a bike rider and somebody trying to get more people to ride bikes, I think that's pretty exciting.
Good news.
Yes, done, Carrie.
that's great. Lynn,
Nothing.
all right, Bill,
Nope.
all right, and I've said enough, so I think we can consider this adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Bye. Take
night,
care, guys.
Night, everybody.